Freestyle in the anchor, don't write that shit. Freestyle in the anchor.
I invite you to reflect on that trip at all, but I'm really curious over these last 2 to 3 years how that experience informed how you're seeing Black and Palestinian solidarity in this real time in response to this, extension of genocide. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that trip and how that informed how you've been moving through or processing the horrors of these past few years.
Yeah, I think, give thanks for the delegation and the organization that took place to make those delegations happen. From the very beginning, I was pretty integral in trying to, as soon as I found out about the delegation and was invited, I kind of took it upon myself and along the invitation of Ahmed Abuznaid and Meita Al-Hassan to be intentional about a cultural strategy. Who were the artists and practitioners that we should be thinking through in inviting? And that was always a conversation, because it was really, at that time, there was like no mention of Palestine in the
Right.
mainstream stratosphere. Like, there was no agency for Palestinian stories or voices, or even solidarity with Palestine. The conversation was not acceptable, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was really, it's crazy, it's like when they say like, oh, he who should not be named, or the Voldemort or whatever. I mean, Palestine was, it was a sure way to get yourself removed from spaces, or to not be included in conversations. I know that my career was deeply affected by the work that I did going to Palestine. I know that relationships were on, they were tested, and some just, to this day, especially post October 7th, have just like crystallized in being very clear of like, oh, these are people that, I mean, I always may have had some sort of tension with, but now it's like even, more and more clear. But I say that to say, neither here nor there. The delegation was something that was like really important for us. I think it was an incredibly, we cannot talk about the moment we're in without talking about that delegation. And I think a lot of people who are new to our movement and new to the conversation, see social media as the way that this cause became mobilized around. But I mean, it was only an amplification tool. But people forget that the real grassroots organizing and relationship building is what catapulted us into the moment that we're in. And a lot of times people looked down on, I was talking to somebody about this before, but the level of condescension that we had to deal with as Black people from both the Palestinian side and from the Zionist Jewish side. It was a real uphill battle for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't see those connections. A lot of people didn't want to see those connections, but the actual delegation itself was so instrumental and important for us because before I even went, people were telling me and warning me to not go. I had friends, my friend Ferrari Shepherd, and a woman that I know, Dream Hampton, who was a part of that delegation. There were several other people that were on. They had a delegation before, but it wasn't as publicized, and it wasn't as movement like strategy organized to happen. But that became something that Ahmed got acquainted with those people to help us facilitate the delegation. And when we went, there was a lot of like fear mongering. We had to go through a whole training. And when we got there, it was, I don't want to take away from the horror, of what it is to be in occupied Palestine and to bear witness to it. But I also feel like a huge part of what's been left out of the story is that like Palestinian people are people. They laugh, they love, they dance, they drink, they shoot the shit. It's almost like people see it as if like that's over there, that could never happen here. But technically we're under occupation. You know what I mean? Here. the indigenous people are under occupation. They still thrive and live and create a life for themselves. It doesn't take away from the pain and the brutality that they experience on a day-to-day basis. But I think that somehow that got people became sort of caricatures of like these oppressed people, rather than fully dynamic, complicated human beings. And I think that happens to Black people a lot too. Um, and I think there was even this assumption that we were going to come there and we were going to be super militant about our, our struggle. And I mean, the most revolutionary parts of, I think, being there was like sitting down and having a meal, um, listening to music and sharing songs and dancing while drinking wine together in a bar until it closes, shuts down, um, it was seeing the kids and going into the Deheshe refugee camps and watching, young people rap their stories and like, breakdance and offer us meals and teas. It was drinking sage tea in a painter's home. It's like all of these things that like made it real for us. It wasn't just like, oh, this is what I'm reading about over there. It's like, no, these are people. And I say that to say not a lot of people from our delegation came back, I think, as angry as I was.